YouTube, and welcome to Travel Adventures with Eric B. I'm Eric B. and today we're in the city that never sleeps, New York City. Let's go. So today is all about the 15 things that you should know before you come to New York City. Let's get started. The very first thing you should know before you come to New York City is that you can't see everything. You should definitely make a list before you come to New York because there's so many things to see in New York City, which includes the 5 boroughs, not just Manhattan, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But when you come to New York, the list is so long of different things that you want to see, and you can watch all the videos you want and make as long a list as you want. You're not going to see everything, but you should be very judicious with your time. It's very important that you have a list of things to go see and that you have a plan in place to maybe say, these are the most important things to see, these are the second most, and these things here I'll do if I have time. You should also map out where everything is so you can see as much as you can possibly see in your next trip to the city. The second thing you should know before you come to the city is there's more than just Manhattan when it comes to New York. You can visit Brooklyn. You can see the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Lots to do. You can go to Queens. You can see the Mets play in Queens. You can go to the Bronx and see the Yankees play. You can go to Staten Island, most famously known for the Staten Island Ferry, which you get outstanding views of the Statue of Liberty, and it's absolutely free to take the Staten Island Ferry. But the views within the city of New York goes past just going to Manhattan. And I know a lot of tourists think about Manhattan because Times Square is located in Manhattan, Rockefeller Plaza is there, and most of the major tourist attraction that you think about when you see the city on TV is located in Manhattan. But there's 5 boroughs, and there's something awesome to see in all 5 of them. So make sure you check out as many as possible. The third thing you should know before visiting New York is the Brooklyn Bridge is must visit. So on your short list of things that you have to see as a first-time visitor, Brooklyn Bridge is definitely one. Walking across the Brooklyn Bridge at sunset or sunrise, definitely. But not only walking across the Brooklyn Bridge, but also going to visit the Brooklyn Bridge Park and going to the Dumbo neighborhood, which is right outside of Brooklyn Bridge Park on the Brooklyn side of the Hudson River. Those are must-visit things, the must things to do. The views you get from Brooklyn Bridge Park are absolutely breathtaking, and the views that you're seeing right there comes courtesy from Brooklyn Bridge Park. Absolute must-visit. Don't pass it up. The fourth thing you should know before you visit New York City is you have to come to downtown New York and Battery Park, which is located in the Manhattan borough, of course. You have to go see the 9/11 Museum and the 9/11 Memorial, which is also in Battery Park. But Battery Park is an awesome neighborhood. It's not just the 9/11, the new World Trade Center building and all. It's just a beautiful area. There's a whole lot to do. There's a lot of green space to really enjoy yourself, where you can have a lighter moment after the somber moment of coming and seeing the 9/11 Memorial, where the saddest day in American history happened, and go to the museum and get a great perspective of that. It'll bring you to a few tears, but there's no doubt about it. Battery Park's a beautiful place, and if you come to Battery Park, you will definitely enjoy Battery Park. I promise you that. But the entire downtown area of New York City, in my opinion, is underrated. The financial district, the opulence, the Westfield Shopping Mall, which is an incredible shopping center. You see that beautiful space right there, and you can get off on a subway within that space, which is even more incredible. So you can get off in that space right there with the shops there, and you got the 9/11 Museum right there, and that is the 9/11, the new World Trade Center right there, One World Trade. So yeah, you absolutely have to visit downtown Manhattan in this area. And it's actually a little bit cheaper to stay in this area for the most part as compared to Times Square, generally. The fifth thing you need to know before you come to New York City is you got to visit Times Square. Now, locals that live in New York will tell you, Times Square is just a tourist trap. They're not the biggest fans of Times Square, but you yourself, you're a tourist. And if you're coming to New York City for the very first time, or maybe the second or the third time, I've been to New York 7 or 8 times, and every time I have to go to Times Square. You know, you don't have to spend all day in Times Square, but I promise you, you're going to want to spend some time in Times Square because the billboards, the over-the-top bright lights, the big city, what an amazing feel, only in New York. The sixth thing you should know before you come to New York City is that Subway is a way of life. And the Subway is indeed a way of life. Unlike most cities in America, Subway is a big thing. It's more like a European type thing here because, you know, in Europe, the metro is everywhere and everyone rides the train. Not the case in the U.S., but New York City has terrible traffic and limiting parking. So it is very imperative as a tourist when you come to New York City that you take the subway some to get around. There's a few spots that you can't, like Central Park. The subway doesn't really help you out when it comes to Central Park, but pretty much everywhere else in the city that you're going to go, major attraction wise in the area, the subway will take you there. The subway's not the cleanest or the nicest. They've done a better job with the cleanliness, I've noticed, since the pandemic. The subways are a little cleaner than they were. You have some stations that are classic stations, and you have some newer stations, but the subway is a way of life. You're going to need to take the subway, especially in Manhattan. The seventh thing you should know about New York City is there are lots of free things to do in New York. Now, New York's known as being a very expensive city, one of the most expensive cities in the U.S., but you can walk across the Brooklyn Bridge for free. There are so many beautiful green spaces and parks. You got lots of malls you can walk around and check out. You got Coney Island, which, yeah, it costs money to get on rides, but there's a whole beach there. You can go, you can hang out there, and you can get there for free. There are many museums within the city that you can look up that offer suggestive donations, which means you don't have to pay a thing. But the amount of green spaces there are in the city, observation decks for the most part, you're going to pay for. But there are a lot of places you can go and get really good views of the city for absolute free. You can do a lot in the city of New York for absolutely free. As a matter of fact, I think I'm going to make a video on free things to do coming up in the future in New York, because there are a lot of free things to do within the city. And when you pay so much for hotels and whatnot, you're definitely looking for free things to do. There's a lot of free things to do in New York City. The eighth thing you should know before you come to New York City is street food is everywhere. I mean, literally on every corner you can find street food. I hear about the Halal Brothers. I didn't get a chance to try them, but they always have a long line, and that's the street food that I hear about a lot. Now, I had the opportunity to try one bit of street food, and I tried a sausage croissant. Usually I always love a sausage croissant, but I was disappointed. Didn't think it was that good, but I'm not going to try to discourage you from trying the street food, but some of the street food, I admit, looks a little shady and not really that good. But the ninth thing you should know about New York City is that it's very expensive. So you come in here as a tourist, you can easily go hang out, go to a rooftop bar, enjoy a couple drinks. Next thing you know, you're paying $18 to $20 a drink. You can hang out in Times Square and everyone's got their hands open for a tip, and you're paying all of this extra money for everything. You know, there's the $1 pizza thing, but if you get any meat on it, it ends up being like $4. So just keep that in mind in New York City. I mean, we all know it's expensive to live in Manhattan or New York City, but just in general, it can be expensive just to tour this place. And the 10th thing you should know before coming to New York City is that the observation decks are breathtaking. Now, I don't recommend going on multiple observation decks unless your observation deck, one or two of them is like a rooftop bar and you might get one drink, because the observation decks aren't cheap. I went up to the edge, and the edge at Hudson Yard was like $35-36. And most of the observation decks are that, about $35-36. You got the Rock, you got the 9/11 observation deck. You also have the top of the Rock. Now, I'll admit, I haven't been in any observation deck since 2003 until my last trip, so I don't have a lot to compare the Edge to, but I can just tell you that I really enjoyed the Edge. But again, you should try them all. I just wouldn't try multiple one per trip unless you got a lot of money to spend. Thing number 11 you should know is that rooftop bars are huge. Now, we just got done talking about observation decks. The next one's very similar to rooftop bars. A lot of hotels have rooftop bars and you don't even know about it. So you want to look those rooftop bars up and see where they're located at and get the beautiful views of the cities. Definitely good for a night date. Number 12 is New York City is not your average U.S. city. Now, this one right here, I pretty much made for my non-American viewers here who are watching this video that think, hey, I went to New York, I've been to the U.S. Just like most major cities within the country, New York is totally different than other United States cities. So if you've been to New York, you can't look at it like I've been to the United States, because New York's totally different. Yes, it's the U.S., but it's a very, very, very different city. 13th thing you should know is there's 3 airports within the city of New York. One of the airports is Newark Airport, which is in New Jersey, which I think is the most convenient because you can take the train right to Penn Station, right amongst everything within the city. But also you have LaGuardia, which is a little bit closer to the city, and you have JFK. Those are all closer to the city itself, but usually there's another transfer in between. So I think Newark's a little more convenient. But those are your 3 airports within New York City. The 14th thing you should know before you come to New York City is, if you're like me, I don't carry much cash, but you should always have some cash ready for tipping, because there's a lot of tipping going on in New York City. Just remember, have a little cash. And the 15th thing is Coney Island is worth visiting. This is sort of my opinion on this, but I really like Coney Island, and I wasn't even there long enough to get on any rides, but I had a good time walking around. It was a lot of fun. But if you do have enough time to get on some rides, I'm sure you'll have a little more fun than I had. But I really like Coney Island, and then there's a nice beach right there. Didn't get a chance to get to Rockaway, which is a little further out, and that's another beach in the area. So do check it out. That's all, folks. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I ask that you please hit the like, please hit the subscribe button, please hit the bell notification so you can know when I have more material coming out in the future. Help us to continue to grow as a travel community. And as always, remember, live today, grow today, tomorrow's never guaranteed. Peace!